I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but if it wasn't for the year 2013, my sophomore year of high school, I don't think I'd ever be as big of a music fan as I am today. I was one of those people that back then, and I can admit this, would only listen to like the certain types of rock music and maybe hit songs here and there that I thought as a kid were pretty cool. But at 15 years old, and as I mentioned, a sophomore in high school, things started to change a little bit with the way I saw music. I think it started off knowing that three of my favorite bands were returning, that being Paramore, Fall Out Boy, and Panic at the Disco, with their self-titled album Save Rock and Roll, and Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die. It wasn't necessarily that a lot of these acts had been gone for a long time. I mean, granted, Fall Out Boy had been gone for 5 years, and now they're, back making a new album. Paramore, it had been 4 years since their last album. And with Panic, I felt like they needed to rebound quickly after Vices and Virtues, so the fact that they were coming back in 2013 with an extra member added to the band, it definitely felt like they could do a lot. But this is also when my interest in other genres started to rise. I think I really started getting into metalcore this year, thanks to bands like Asking Alexandria, Bring Me the Horizon with their albums From Death to Destiny and Sempiternal. I think at first with metalcore, I mentioned this a bunch of times, I was always very 50-50 with it and very hesitant to really go into it as much, but hearing these records and seeing that metalcore can be melodic, can be catchy, and it's not about just screaming into the microphone every time, I started to appreciate it a bit more, and now I'm a fan of those bands, and even maybe a fan of some of their older stuff as well, because I've come to appreciate it more, looking back at when they released that stuff, going, yeah, back then, that stuff was pretty popular, and I can understand why people liked it, even if it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea back in the day. The disco and synth pop interest rate started going up, and I think there was a revival in disco thanks to Daft Punk with Random Access Memories, and there was this band called Churches who released their debut album, The Bones of What You Believe. There was a friend that told me to check them out. I did, and heard The Mother We Share, and since then have automatically been attached to my love for synth pop. I mean, I love me some good synth pop. That's really all I have to say nowadays. Plus, my rap interest really started to grow. It wasn't just me listening to old records like Dr. Dre's The Chronic, Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style, Eminem's Slim Shady LP. No, I actually went and listened to albums like Kanye West Yeezus, Chance the Rapper. Even though it's not an album, it's a mixtape, so I always count it, but Acid Rap. Eminem released his sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP, and Tyler, the Creator, had Wolf. There was other artists that came out this year in the rap game, like Run the Jewels with their first self-titled. I think that really made me appreciate the newer type political music, as back then, when you had artists like Public Enemy doing this, it was pretty cool, but to have kind of like that new version of it with Run the Jewels, I was definitely into it. Plus, even though I was a year late to the party with this, I also listened to Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City that year, and automatically was just into it right away, and again, have been a big Kendrick fan since. Other releases that came out this year were Vessel by 21 Pilots. This is when they really started hitting the mainstream thanks to Fueled by Ramen, and I enjoyed that album. 30 Seconds to Mars released their long-awaited fourth studio album, Love, Lust, Faith, and Dreams, and although I find this to be one of their weaker ones, it still has some good moments, and I remember being excited for it. Then Queens of the Stone Age, Like Clockwork, one of their best records to date. You had Death Haven with Sunbather, which really not necessarily made me appreciate black metal as a whole, but maybe melodic black metal, as what this categorized as, is definitely something different from what I've ever heard before. Avenged Sevenfold released Hail to the King, which again, whatever you say about Avenged Sevenfold, I don't care. Whether you like the older stuff, I don't care. This record is an absolute banger of a record. Arctic Monkeys released AM, which I think got me more into like the indie side of things in this case. Justin Timberlake came back after 7 years with the 2020 Experience Part 1 and 2, doing a definite good job, still showing that even after all these years and the long wait, he has it by giving us multitude of material. Lorde released Pure Heroin. A Day to Remember released Common Courtesy, their best record out right now. Korn came back with the Paradigm Shift as Brian Head Welch returned, and they started sounding like their older selves, at least from like 1999 to like 2003 era before Brian Head Welch left, and Avril Lavigne returned with her self-titled. And even though I don't like this record that much, it was just still exciting to know that at the time the queen of pop punk, although that would be argued between her and Hayley Williams at that point, at the time queen of pop punk, Avril Lavigne, was making a return to a different sound, and it was interesting to see what direction she would go, and I was willing to listen to it. But yeah, if it wasn't for these records specifically in 2013, I would not have this channel, and I would not be talking about music like I do now, because it was just, I had that just child mindset that it has to be rock music or Kiss in this case, because that's really all I was listening to back then too. But I became more fond of other genres because, I don't know why, but around this time is when other genres became interesting to me. Like, they seemed to be changing and doing different things other than being the same generic stuff that they were before, and it made me more intrigued to listen because it was like, it was different. Like, I'd never heard it before. And now with the genreless music becoming a thing, it's definitely becoming more and more interesting to listen to other artists and other musicians who want to change their sound and do things that they've never done before, mix in a sound that had never been mixed in with another, because you can really get away with that now. And I think 2013 was the start of that, where you saw artists start changing direction and doing other things, and people may have been disappointed with it at first, but now 2021 is doing what it's doing now because 2013 really started the grow for music in general. This was like the time that I really felt like it started changing. The whole emo scene thing was kind of going away, and I think there were artists definitely changing to do other things. And now, of course, you had people feeling nostalgic about what happened pre-2013, that it's all starting to reintroduce itself, like pop punk and nu metal and even some metalcore at this point in time is even starting to hit the mainstream. It's just really interesting what 2013 has done for music sense and has really piqued my interest, and here we are today, 8 years later, and I can't get enough of it. Music is most of my day. I think I don't go a day without listening to any music. I just have to listen to something to get through, and that's just what it is, whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, or, you know, a day where I just don't feel right. It's good to just turn on some music and relax and just be able to drown everything out for a bit in your life. But yeah, that's just my experience with music. You can tell me in the comments below, what was the first year of your lifetime where music really was a staple for you? Like, you really started to get into it and it made you a fan, because it may not be 2013 for some of you, it may be 2009, 2008, heck, you could have recently just gotten into music in like 2016, 2017, 2018, like you were following it before, but now you're like really following it, because I'm one of those people that will listen to anything. So yeah, that does it for me. Stay safe out there, wear your mask, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.